Yeah, hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Fine, ma'am. What about you?
I'm also good. Can you please turn on your camera?
Yeah, in 1 minute I am opening.
Yeah, no problem.
Am I visible?
Yes.
Uh,
Okay, good. Okay, so can we start?
yes.
Okay. So let's start with your basic introduction.
So, good afternoon, ma'am. My name is Ritvik. I live in Dwarka, Delhi. So, I have total of 5 years and 10 months of experience. So, I started my career with HCL Technologies on the third party payroll. So, there I have worked around 1.5 years. And after that, I moved to a company in Okla, that was Sysnet. There I have worked for 10 months, and after that I moved to KMG IT Services. There I worked for 2 years and 10 months, and in Amdocs I have worked 10 months.
Great. So you are already having some DevOps experience,
Yes, yes.
right?
So if I talk about my DevOps experience, so that started in KMG back in 3 years. So we can take DevOps experience as 3 years.
Okay. So I'll just ask about some tools and technologies. Just
Yes.
say if you have worked or not. Okay.
Yes.
Azure, you have worked?
Yeah, Azure in cloud migration program I have worked.
Okay. AWS, you have worked, right?
Yes, yes,
Terraform,
yes.
Ansible.
Ansible little bit.
Okay. And Docker.
Docker intermediate. I will rate around 3 out of 5.
Okay. Kubernetes.
2.5 out of 5.
Okay. CI/CD tools.
3 out of 5. So basically CI/CD there were in Azure also and Jenkins also.
Okay. So Azure DevOps and Jenkins both you're aware, right?
Yeah, I am aware but not an expert.
Okay.
Normal
Okay.
usage.
Okay. Monitoring tools.
Monitoring tools: Nagios, Prometheus, Grafana, CloudWatch.
Okay.
Intermediate knowledge I have.
Okay. Just 1 minute. Just put it on. Grafana and CloudWatch, right? Any programming knowledge?
Little bit.
Or which language?
Basic shell scripting. But I
Okay.
can understand the code. And if you ask about the programming and scripting, JSON and YAML I understand full because those are core DevOps languages.
Yeah.
Shell scripting
Okay.
a little bit, and Groovy I can understand the code, but I have not written any code in Groovy for Jenkins
Okay.
pipeline. In Jenkins we
Oh,
use Groovy as an option.
yes, yes, yeah, we do. Okay. Okay, great. So you have also worked with Linux, right?
Yeah,
Linux commands and all you know,
yeah.
right?
Intermediate knowledge 3 to 3.5 out of 5.
Okay. Okay, yeah, no problem. Okay, so let us start. There is a thing like inode in Linux. What is that?
Means?
We have one concept of inode in Linux.
inode is basically it's a data structure type of thing which relates to the. I mean, it is related to the file system, as far as I remember.
Okay.
Hmm.
What is a command to check the memory space for in?
Cat proc mem info. Actually, there are several commands, but as far right now I remember cat proc mem info to check the RAM.
Okay, to check the RAM. Okay, and what if we want to check the like
CPU
file size?
file
No, no,
size.
not CPU. You have created some file and you want to check how much RAM or how much space it has taken. So, which command you will run?
Uh, df-h.
Okay, df-h will be showing the RAM or space
I don't.
taken by all the we have all the directory structures, right? Root
So if
and
you want
other.
to see the all the directories with indent file, ls-la is the command.
Okay. What is the difference between RMDIR and RMI?
So RMI is used in Docker for removing the image, and RM-RF is used to forcefully delete anything. RMDIR means remove a directory.
Okay.
Hmm.
Okay, so can you just share your screen? I'm just giving one program. Can you write it?
Program.
Yeah, it's a basic cell scripting, right?
Basic. I mean, okay, I will try.
Have you worked with awk or grep commands?
Grep command I have used, and other one was
Awk. I put it on chat.
AWK. What is it?
It's a command in
Linux.
Linux. We used it.
AWK.
Yep.
I have. No.
Okay.
AWK. No
Okay.
idea. Sorry.
Have you heard about sed?
Yeah, SED command I have read. It is basically used in shell scripting, but right now I don't remember it. It is specifically used in shell scripting.
Yeah, and you have done shell scripting, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay, what you have done in shell scripting?
Basic shell
What you
scripting,
have
and
done?
that too I used to do in KMG. In Amdocs for the last 1 year, I have not been in touch with the shell scripting. So basically, when we install the EC2 instance, so we have a user data script area where we can write small scripts. So when we launch our EC2 instance, our server is launched with that configuration. So for shell scripting, along with me, whole team was involved, and we used to do as a team. That was not my individual task. And we had first of all requirements, and we used to use Google search to take the logic of shell scripting. In that way, we used to do.
Okay, no problem.
So that's programming is my weak area as of now.
Okay, no problem. Let's move towards Azure. Okay, Azure or AWS, which cloud you will prefer?
AWS, Azure a little bit.
Okay, so okay, no problem. Let's start with AWS. Okay. So what is EC2?
EC2 is
Compute
Elastic
service.
Compute Cloud. So basically, cloud offers us. AWS offers us the templates or AMIs, and using those AMIs we create EC2 instances. So let's say if you want to install Docker, Kubernetes in any EC2 instance, so there is an EC2 instance in which Docker is already present. We only have to install it and run Docker, and then install Kubernetes on the top of it. So there are various types of images, so we can take as per our requirement, both Linux and Windows, and recently 1 year back they have introduced Mac OS as well.
Okay, so what we will do, like if we have created one EC2 instance and once we are doing restart, or we are stopping it and we are starting again the EC2 instance, so we will be losing the public IP, right?
Yes.
So in this case, what we can do?
What we can do
We
means,
don't.
if you don't
Yeah.
want your public IP to be changed, then use Elastic IP if
Okay.
specific
So,
IP is required.
okay. So one elastic IP, can one elastic IP be used for multiple VMs?
Yes, but that will be a chargeable. If we are using public IP is associated with a single EC2 instance, and the EC2 instance is in a running mode, in that case it will not incur charges. Except for that, all other cases it will incur charges. So if we are disassociating a public IP with EC2 instance, so make sure that we have to delete revoke it.
Okay. Okay. So is there any number we can use one elastic IP with multiple VMs? So is there any number limit like up to 5, up to 10 we can use?
As far as I remember, there are around 5 IPs we can use, public IPs.
Okay. Okay. So what is public and private subnet in AWS?
So public subnets are internet facing in which the internet gateways are attached, and private subnet is basically the subnet which are in. I mean, they cannot access the internet directly. So the practical implementation of that is, if we want to access any server, so for security purpose, first of all we will log into the jump or Bashan host, which is in public, and then from there we will go to the our server, basically residing in the private subnet. And second implementation is that if we want to deploy an application which has front-end as web server and the back-end as databases, so databases will reside in the private subnet and web server will reside in public subnet.
Okay. So have you worked with load balancers?
Yes.
So what are various kind of load balancer? How it works?
So earlier we used classic load balancer, but AWS introduced two more load balancer. One is application load balancer and one is network load balancer. So network load balancer works on layer 4 protocols, which are TCP and UDP, and application load balancer works on HTTP and HTTPS layer 7 protocols, and the traffic which belongs to other protocols passes like unload balanced.
Okay, so we also have gateway load balancer. Have you heard about this?
Gateway load balancer?
Yeah, there is a concept of gateway load balancer as well. Okay, no problem. You can Google it later.
Okay. Actually, for the past 1 year, I am not using AWS much, because in Amdocs I was working with Azure. So I think there are some updates in AWS.
Yeah, no problem.
Hmm.
So there is some algorithm on which load balancers are working. Any idea on that? Behind the scene, how load balancer is working?
Actually, the algorithm works like they are listeners. So there are some DNS related stuff there. So the listeners listen to the queries, and then the load balance. So one are public listeners and one are private listeners are at the backend, and the public listeners are facing public the traffic which is coming from the internet.
Okay.
So in that way it works. Public to DNS and DNS to public IP resolvable things are happening there in that concept.
Yeah, we have round robin. Basically, by default, it works on round robin algorithm.
And if there are odd number of instances, so the traffic will be distributed one VM, like there are 7, so 4 will go into one and 3 will be going into one, and there is a 10% unbalancing can be done.
Yeah, there are I think 5 or 6 algorithm are there.
Okay.
By default, it will take round robin, and if you want to configure, we can configure for the other as well.
Okay. So you are using Terraform or do manual?
You can use Terraform as well.
Okay. So
currently I'm not working on AWS. Currently I'm working on Azure. So,
okay. So
in past I worked on AWS. So there we used manual only as per the client requirement.
Yes. I have also used manual in AWS and using Terraform for Azure.
Okay, no problem. So availability zone and availability sets. What is that?
Availability zone are in a region, if you divide multiple data centers into multiple areas, like if we have a region, so let's say Mumbai. So one is East Mumbai 1, another is East Mumbai 2, basically division of the region into multiple data centers. So that is known as the availability zone. and availability sets. I don't know. Sorry.
Okay, no
Uh,
problem. And any idea on fault domain? We have a concept of fault domain, right?
which domain? Fault domain.
Yes.
FALL fault domain.
Yes, yes.
Sorry, I am hearing this term first time. Sorry, I don't. I am not aware of
Okay, no problem. It's basically just to ensure your high availability of your instances.
it. Okay.
Okay, you can check it later, no problem.
Yes. No, no issues.
Okay, have you worked with S3?
Yes.
What you did there?
Basically, created the storage and versioning and all that stuff. Cross-region replication. And we for static web content connected it with the cloud front, and for testing purpose, because in KMG we had a website project, web developers were there, so we had to host a website into the cloud for the testing purpose for the client. So for that we had used Route 53 and pull that code, HTML code, from S3 to Route 53 using alias.
Okay. So by default, what is the life cycle of one S3 bucket?
The life cycle is basically if we want to move our data to the particular storages for the cost reduction purpose, so those are known as the life cycle. By default, life cycle of S3.
Okay.
So is it related to time or particular storage types?
It's like particular storage time, like how till how much years or how many months you are using it.
Uh,
Okay, no problem. So we have three kind of instances, right? On demand instances, spot instance, and reserved instance. What are those and how it differs?
So spot instances are the instances which we can do for the testing purpose, and those are very cheap types of instances which are left over and are not used in the AWS data center. But if the cost start screening, so those are terminated automatically. So we have to do the spot requests to create the spot instances, and it is highly recommended that we should use them for testing purpose only. Reserved instances are the reserved capacity instances. If we want to, I mean, reserve our instances for the future use, if it is guaranteed that after 2 to 3 years we want any server with that capacity. So for that we can use reserved instances. So those are used for the long term basis. And on demand instances are the instances which we can create anytime as per our demand.
Okay. What is a stateful and stateless firewall?
State, it's a generic. If we see in generic terms, so stateful is that if inbound traffic is allowed, outbound is also allowed. And the example is security groups. And if we want, stateless is if inbound is allowed, outbound should also be allowed explicitly by us only. And if we don't do that, we will not be able to run our. I mean, I had used that in website hosting for testing purpose for a client. So I had not configured the outbound rule, so that website was not working. So after I created a rule for NACL, then it came up. So basically, inbound and outbound. One is if inbound is allowed, outbound is also allowed, and vice versa.
Okay. Okay, so on Azure, what you did? Only migration work you have done
Yes,
on
yes,
Azure.
yes. Migration work, VNet peering, creation of VMs, load balancers, databases, and all those stuff. So basically, Amdocs. Let me explain my project in Azure. There were 7,000 applications which belonged to AT&T. Out of those, 4,000 were to be migrated to Azure cloud. So they had a contract with Microsoft. So that contract was distributed among 5 companies. One was IBM, Amdocs, and Microsoft, Accenture, and one other. So my task was, as a platform engineer, was to check the DD, that was detailed document, and the target architecture, that was a diagram of which were created by the application team, and the applications were assigned to us, and we were used to work in the pods. So in pods we had several platform engineer, one database administrator, two team leaders, and the whole team was known as a pod. So as per the TA, I used to create the resources for the production environment and migrate them to Azure. And for all the three environments, one was POC, non-prod, and prod. And after the
Okay.
cutover was done, the POC environment was destroyed.
Okay, so how you did migration? Manual migration you did, or you used some migrate tools?
See, there were 8 to 9 steps. So the first step was that our team leader used to have a meeting with the seniors, and then the particular applications were assigned to us based on that meeting. After that, we had ADO onboarding. So in ADO onboarding, AT&T had their own portals. So my task was to onboard that application. By onboarding, we mean that we had a mods ID of a particular application. So there was some entries which were required to be filled, and after that we used to onboard that application. After onboarding, it was an automation purpose. Two environments, one was DevOps non-prod, and that one was DevOps prod, used to create a reflect in our Azure portal. And after that, we used to take the subscription ID, and we had a testing team. So testing team used to provide the naming conventions for the coding. After that, we used took the skeleton code from Azure Golden Images, and then used to make the entire code. Let's say I want to deploy a key vault or a load balancer. So it had a, I mean, particular naming conventions, and after that, we used to push the code using Git in Azure, and if any error was coming, so we were used to resolve those errors in the pipeline. And in that way, all the resources were created. And after that, the particular people were called from that application team, and the installations were done on the servers as per requirement. And every pod had one database administrator, so the majority MySQL was used. So I used to create MySQL databases and hand over it to the database administrator. So he used to migrate all the databases, and the people who were from the other team, application team, those used to come, and we used to configure those servers. So initially manually was done, but after that they were asking us to install everything using the PowerShell. So the PowerShell, and we had a dedicated PowerShell person. So their designation was system administrator. So in that way, applications were migrated. So I had migrated around 7 to 8 applications in my tenure. And previously,
Okay, what was the tech stack for the applications?
What?
What was the tech stack for the application?
I
Whether
didn't.
it was a Java application or Python application, or there must be some tech stack, right?
Those were mixed kind of applications. I mean, there were 4,000 applications, so it included everything.
Okay, so when you are saying it's a migration, so the application must be hosted somewhere, right?
Yeah,
Either it will be on-prem or
those
some
were
other cloud.
CCC. Those were AT. Have you heard of AT&T, American Telephone and Telegraph?
Yes, yes.
So actually, that's a very big company. Like we have Airtel and Idea in India. So AT&T is for US. So they have 23 data centers distributed all over the world. So they are trying to cut the cost. So after all the migrations were done, only 5 to 6 data centers were left. So all those applications are residing in their data centers on-prem.
Okay, so they were migrating from on-prem to cloud, right?
Yes, on-prem to cloud.
Yes. So you migrated it by manually, like on the cloud you went and you set up everything by your own, like
Yes.
manually setup you have done. So you did manual migration, right?
By manual, I used to create the code.
See, in Azure, we do have a concept of Azure provides some migration tool in which we don't have to do anything. Like if you see, in example, like I'll give you an example.
Huh?
If I have one application that is a Java or Python or PHP or any kind of programming language, or
Oh,
it's
okay,
whether it is
okay,
using any
okay.
server, so Azure provides us a migration tool. We'll just install that tool to our on-prem server,
Mm-hmm.
and it will ask us to fill. It will find out, it will some what are the application hosted on that server, and we need to select which application we want to migrate, and we just need to create the right resource on Azure, and we need to just fill out those details, and once you are done, it will do whole migration. It will do automatically. It will do
No, ma'am,
you.
no, sorry. So this kind of work I did in KMG. So one is, I mean, AWS Elastic Beanstalk. So in Eclipse, we have a plugin for AWS. So I installed that plugin and moved. Yeah, I used to migrate Java applications into AWS. So in Med USA project. And another was that we had a .NET project, so we used to migrate databases as you have explained. But in Amdocs, this way was not
Okay, yeah.
followed.
Yeah,
AT,
so
AT&T did not
I,
allow
I
us.
I just wanted to understand whether you did manual or you used
No,
any
no.
tools.
Using
So
Terraform, I used to create the resources, and then particular people used to do the installation. So as per your
oh,
understanding, that is a manual process.
yes, yes.
Oh,
What you
okay.
did, that you did manually.
Using Terraform.
Yeah, using Terraform, you must have created the infrastructure,
Yes, yes,
but
yes,
all the
yes.
applications, the database,
Yes, yes.
these
And I
things you
created
migrated.
infrastructure for around 7 to 8 applications. My core task was that only, Terraform.
Okay, so you must be good on Terraform, right?
Yes.
Okay, so what are the most important commands in Terraform?
Terraform init, Terraform plan, Terraform destroy, Terraform plan.
Okay, and what is Terraform state file?
Terraform state file is the file which uh, I mean consists of all the configuration and what is happening in the Terraform that is stored in the Terraform state file. So the main task of that is to match the desired state from the current state, and those are stored in. If I talk about AWS, those are stored in S3, and if I talk about Azure, so those were stored in the container. So there is one thing in if we are using Terraform. So if we are creating an infrastructure in Terraform, and if we want to delete something, because I had faced that issue, and that issue caused a very big problem because when I was new. So if you want to delete any resource, we have to delete from Terraform only. If we delete manually, so the Terraform state file is unaware of it, and after that the infrastructure gives a lot of error. I mean, it has a very bad impact on infrastructure. So
Okay,
this is the thing we have to pay attention always.
okay, and suppose by some mistake we our Terraform state file is corrupted. So how can we recover that? And we have not saved it on some other place.
This issue I have.
Okay,
Sorry,
and what if yeah,
actually
yeah,
I
go
have
ahead.
not faced this issue.
Okay, and what if Terraform state file is deleted by mistake?
Uh, I think it will have some impact on the infrastructure. Actually, the issue which I had faced, I had told you the scenario.
Yeah,
Uh,
okay, okay, no problem. So you must have created modules in Terraform, right?
hmm
Okay, okay. So have you worked with Ansible or just you know Ansible?
I know Ansible, and actually I have studied on my own, to be very frank,
Okay, okay, no
and
problem.
done practical also.
Okay.
It's an agentless tool, so it is very easy as compared to Chef.
Okay, no problem. So, when it comes to CI/CD, you used Jenkins and Azure DevOps both, right?
Yes. For
So,
creation of resources, I mean, Azure DevOps in cloud migration, and in Jenkins, I have triggered the pipeline manually.
okay, so what kind of pipeline you created in Jenkins?
So if I talk, those were in BSSC project. So developers used to push the code in the Nexus repository, and those were, I mean, further pushed into the Bit bucket. So in the morning time, we had a call with the QE team, and after that, they used to provide us the changes which were supposed to be done in the Bit bucket. So we used to do the changes in the Bit bucket and then connect it with the Jenkins. And one trigger was done in the morning time and one was in the afternoon. And the environment was MS360, and I was responsible for non-prod. And after that, I used to push the code in the Jenkins and then trigger the pipeline manually. And all the shell
Okay,
scripting and all the was already set up. And if I talk about, I mean, and if there was any error, we were supposed to resolve it and then commit all of those changes. Other than that, if I talk about particularly myself, so I have used basic cron jobs, etc., to run the, I mean, run the Jenkins.
okay. So have you written Jenkins file, or
Uh,
you were just creating pipelines?
just creating pipeline Jenkins file. I understand the Groovy code, but I didn't get a chance to write the Jenkins file.
Okay, no problem. So in Jenkins job, like you created a which pipeline you created, declarative or scripted, which one you preferred and why?
Actually, I have not created a pipeline. In Groovy, I have not created anything. So if I talk about the scripted, so a particular block does the core work, and in the declarative, the entire code has to do the changes. So that's the main difference, and that is written in Groovy.
Okay,
It was
and
already set up in my project. I was not supposed to
okay.
touch it as per the
So
project.
actually, pipeline was already written.
I had
You
to
just
trigger
have
it.
to run there.
And
Okay, you
if
just
any
have
error is coming, then we had to
then you
resolve that error.
okay. Okay, and have you configured self-hosted agent in Azure DevOps?
What self-hosted agent means?
Yeah, see in Azure when you use to run your pipeline, it by default it will use a spot instance, right?
No. Azure, AT&T had taken the Azure subscription, and to connect the Terraform with that Azure, we used to do we used to create a pad token, and using pad token, the Terraform was connected to Azure. And there were two environment. One was Azure 00 and other was Azure 06. So 00 was the where the all the skeleton code was present, and 06 was there where we used to push all the code for the application migration purpose.
Okay,
Mm.
so suppose you want to you have created one like a pipeline in Azure DevOps, and you just want to run a simple script that is a hello world. Okay, you want to print hello world on some server. Okay, so how you will tell your Azure DevOps pipeline that go on this server and run this pipeline on this particular server?
No, this I have not done.
Okay, so that's what comes in self-hosted agent configuration, right?
No,
So I think that is already done for you, and you only triggered the
Uh,
pipeline. And
actually, AT&T, I must tell you frankly, so we they had given us a dedicated HVD, right? And
okay,
many things were automated there, and they had their own portals which used to run in their network only.
okay, got
Uh,
it.
so if we want to connect any Windows server to, I mean, domain, so even that they had a portal. And as a practice in generic terms, we go to the my computer and right click and then give the domain name, and then we add server to a domain, but they had their own process.
Okay, no problem. So you have worked on Docker, right?
Docker, I have worked back in KMG.
Okay, have you written any Docker file?
Yes, not multi-staging, but single.
Okay. So what is the difference between add and copy?
So add, if we want to, if we want to copy anything, so from the local directory, so that is known as the copy, and is a command which can take the respective things from the internet also.
Okay, and we have different kind of networks in Docker. So can you explain those?
Bridge, host, none. So bridge is something which is the internal network, and the IP range is 172.17 by default. And if we want to create our own network, so docker network create is the command, and if we want to check all the networks, so docker network ls is the command. Second one is the host. So host means if you want to use the network of the host in which the docker is running, so that is the host network, and there is one if none. So none network is the network if we there is no network.
Okay, and we have two more networks, overlay networks and MACLAN networks. What are those?
Overlay networks are used to connect between different containers, and one more.
MACLAN.
Acha, Mac VLAN. So those are used to give the MAC address to the containers. That is the hardware address in generic terms.
Okay.
So overlay is used to connect the containers, and Mac VLAN used to give the MAC address to the containers.
Okay. Have you used Docker Compose?
Yes, for multi-container purpose. So basically, if we talk about the core of the Docker Compose, so that is written in YAML language, and if we want to run the multi-container in the single file, so that is known as the Docker Compose. And after running all the coding, we use Docker Compose up command, and then this is how that works. And it has 3 versions also.
Okay. So you have worked on Kubernetes as well, right?
Kubernetes I will rate 2.5 out of 5. So in BSSC project, Kubernetes was being used, and I was involved only in the basic troubleshooting. But
have you worked with Helm chart in Kubernetes?
No. Helm chart I was not part of it. Helm chart is basically the packaging tool. So let's say if you are installing any software in your laptop, so there are some packages and dependent files. So similarly, Helm is the package manager tool for Kubernetes, but I was not a part of it. Basically, it is known as Helm chart, and nowadays the version which we is using is Helm 3. But theoretical I know, but practical I didn't get exposure.
Okay. Yeah.
But it was actually in BSSC project. I was only a part of it. It was a very vast project, and even that project was using the Kafka and Kibana and Couchbase and Helm charts and everything in core DevOps. But separate people were divided for separate tasks. So that was the issue.
Okay. Okay, so I don't have anything else to ask. Do you have any questions? So you can ask.
So if I go through this round, is there any further round, or this is the final?
Yeah. If you have, sorry, 1 minute.
No issues. Take it.
Yeah, you might have to go for one more round.
Okay. So in total, how many rounds are there?
3 rounds will be there. So 2 will be like technical and 1 will be like HR. Have you already had interaction with HR?
Yes, HR also took my interview. I frankly tell you, she asked me 5 questions.
Okay, who was the HR person you communicated with?
The meeting was given by the Shalini, I think, and but the HR who called me, I don't know her name.
Okay, no problem. Oh
So
yeah, one more thing. Like you have worked on Nagios, Prometheus, and Grafana. So have you created a dashboard in?
yes, dashboard I have created, and the basic metrics I had to do. Back in KMG, they used to send me to the client, so the MBA was the client, so Prometheus I had configured for them. And regarding Grafana, if you want to have very rich GUI experience, so use data source and pull Nagios or Prometheus to Grafana. And Nagios has two components. One is Nagios XI and Nagios Core. And
Okay.
they can also be attached to the mail. So if anything is happening, so all the metrics will come in our mail as well. Other than that, the CloudWatch is there. So if we pay to the AWS, the 1 minute metrics will be shown to us. Otherwise, 5 minute metrics are free. And the RAM metrics are custom metrics. For that, we have to write the script. But all the other metrics, be it CPU or disk or anything else, is provided by the CloudWatch. And in Azure, there are Azure Monitor and Insights. So I did not check that, but I have faced that issue that the Insights and Cloud Monitor, Azure Monitor were not showing. So the troubleshooting was that we had to upgrade our instances. There was a dedicated option. So after 10 minutes, all the logs used to reflect there. So that was
Oh,
the Azure Monitor and Azure Insights.
okay. So that's all from my end. Anything from your end?
No, I was good.
Okay.
I'm good. So thank you.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Ritvik. Thank you for joining.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you, ma'am. Have a nice day.
Okay. You too. Bye bye.